Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. In my conversation today with Jacqueline Hollows, we discover what happens when what once worked for you in business is no longer fulfilling, is no longer working. Jacqueline shares her honest experience of how that was difficult for her to see and how she navigated the challenging transition into a completely new business that has since ignited a passion to help change makers, to make a difference in the world and get paid for what they love. Here's a bit more about my guest, Jacqueline Hollows, also known as Mama J. Driven by a mission to activate change makers across the globe, Jacqueline Hollows is dedicated to helping others reconnect with their intuition and take inspired, practical action. As the founder of Impact Activator, a school for change makers, she empowers individuals who are passionate about creating lasting, positive impact to realize their visions and support those who need it most. Her unique approach is based on 12 years with Beyond Recovery, delivering 3 principles programs in prison, addiction communities, and training practitioners. Jacqueline's memoir, Wing of an Angel, shares stories from adversity to freedom. The Impact Activator program eliminates the need for external validation or overwhelming strategies, focusing instead on simplicity, authenticity, and real-world results. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Mama J. Hello, Jacqueline. Welcome to my Wildspire podcast. I'm really happy and excited to have you here today as a guest in my home and my heart. So I first heard about you and some of the work you were doing in the world through the 3 Principles community and through, in particular, the work that you were doing in prisons, sharing the beautiful understanding that has helped so many people, myself included, really just discover freedom in life that, well, I'll speak for myself, I didn't know was available before that. And then recently I came across you again and I saw that you were moving in a whole different direction with your work and career, and a direction that feels quite compatible with some of the things that I've been up to for a while also, in helping people authentically bring their work into the world through this thing that we call a business. So I would love to hear a little bit about that, like whatever you would like to share about how did you go from, well, maybe you tell me a little bit about what you were doing and then how it shifted into what you're doing now.
So I am best known for the prison work that I did in the UK, and that was taking this understanding into prisons, and I accidentally fell into that work. So often people say to me, "How do you get to work in prisons?" But I really felt like I was led there, and it was hard work, but it was so amazing, such wonderful work. And I have many stories of transformation and things that happened in there. I wrote a memoir about it. It was all encompassing for me. I felt as though everything that I had done in my life had led to doing that work, both from the transformative side of working with people in prison, but also the number of facilitators that I trained through that program and that came to work with me, and the visitors that came and spoke with the guys and thought that they were in a room of philosophers, for instance. So it was really all encompassing. And then COVID came along and pretty much killed the projects. We were on a great trajectory. We were rolling out the program to 11 prisons in the southwest of England. We were already in 5 other prisons, and we were building a team. Some of the people that had been inside and been trained as facilitators by the team were now working for the business. It was all really growing well. And then COVID came along and stopped everything, and all the money got redirected. And so for a couple of years post-COVID, we limped along and tried to pivot. And in the last 2 years before I gave that business up, I worked with homeless organizations. I worked with gambling organizations, and, I adapted to do different sorts of work. We still actually have a prison buddies scheme where I send distance learning materials to people in prison, and there's got SID quotes in there, and, really impactful workbooks based on our curriculum. And I write for the newspaper, a monthly column. So I have a team of volunteers who write to people in prison. So we still have the Beyond Buddies Club, it's called. But I really came to see in the last couple of years, 22, 23, 24, that I wasn't loving what I was doing at all. And it was an effort, and it was draining. And there kept being potential, oh, this is going to happen. And so I held on and held on. But in actual fact, by the end of last year, what I came to realize was that work is done now. And it had its time, the work was done, and it was time for me to move on. So I'll be honest with you, Steph, I knew that for a long time, but I didn't take any notice of it because I was so attached to being the prison lady, and so attached to the outcomes, and that it was such meaningful work. And some people said it was God's work. And I really found it very difficult to let go. And also because of the souls that we were working with, that wasn't just a selfish thing. So I found it very difficult to let go. But I could see from the energy that it just wasn't there anymore. And all the other things I was doing were, might as well got a job. I was doing them because, oh, well, we'll just do this then, or we'll just do that. And so it came to a point where I realized that fully and thought, I've got to let this go. There's something else now for me, and I don't know what that is, and I have to let this go. And I want to really emphasize that was really hard. It was my baby. It was like letting go part of me, not just identity, but this thing that I'd nurtured and cared for and, had all this feeling towards. But what I know now is I couldn't do the next thing until I put the first thing to bed. So when I talk about what I'm doing now, at first, some people said, well, why couldn't you have done that under the umbrella of Beyond Recovery, which is the nonprofit? And the reason why I couldn't is I almost had to take the leap before I could see. I had to clear the decks before I could see what was next. And I think often we shy away from doing that. We want the comfort of knowing that we're going to get money from our coaching business before we leave our job, or, knowing that things are going to turn out before we leave a relationship, or, you can say it in any scenario. And I'm not saying everyone should take the leap, But I am saying that sometimes you have to close off the chapter before you get the thought and the ideas of what next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, please do keep going.
Um, I I closed the business in January 25, had my sadness. I actually thought, I don't know if I can do anything else. Like, I haven't got any skills. I don't know what I can do next. And people who know me laugh at that, thinking about all the skills that I have got. But I thought, I don't know. And I considered taking a job as a post lady. So I would deliver the post to people. And, I thought, well, I'll get fit and I'll have a little van. And I'll sprinkle fairy dust everywhere I go, be like delivering letters with love. And I quite fancied the idea, be a salary. And my husband said, well, why don't you just work with people? What do you want to do a job where you can just work with people? So I don't know what I can possibly do. And I was delivering a program away in Denmark, and I was telling this group of people, I'm going to be a postie. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I just suddenly thought, wow, everywhere I go, people ask me, how did you get to work in prison? How do you work with homeless people? How do I start the drumming circle down the road with the asylum seekers? They ask me these things, and not only the how to, but they want to talk to me about, am I good enough? Am I good enough to go do that thing, or should I not do it really? And I thought, wow, none of that frightens me. Like, that's what I'll teach people. And I talk about inspired action, similarly to you, I think. And I know that you have to take action to turn whatever it is into the form. And you cannot just sit around hoping for things. You have to take the steps, and the steps are imperfect and they're messy. But you can't take the next step until you take that step. And so I thought, oh, I can definitely help people with that. So I set up a new venture, training people who've had a transformative experience, how they can bring that experience into the world and help others, basically, and not use lots of woo-woo language like we like to, and not be afraid of selling, and all the things that we have to do if we want to make a business. And a lot of people are very scared about money, and they think money is evil, or we shouldn't be making money out of things. So get rid of all of that, and give them practical tools, as well as really solidifying the foundation of you're already enough and the world needs you.
I think it was just enough. And
Okay.
I may try out the name that I've heard you called many times, that I think this came out of your prison work, right? Mama J.
Yeah.
It says a lot to the energy that you bring to people, the nurturing, and like, you're okay. You're already enough. You can do this. You can get through this. You can create this. You get to, which is really lovely. I want to highlight something that you said, because I keep seeing it myself, and I share this with other people, but it's because I also I'm still in it. My background was really going 100% into business. When I got into business and became an entrepreneur, and this was over 20 years ago, I fell in love with it, and I just dove in, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then when I got into online marketing, online business, because I had an internet marketing business, I was even more excited. Like, that's when I really got my hands around it. And so I did all the things that they said I had to do. And it fed right into this, I can do it, I can make things happen. That kind of action that came from a lot of hustle and force and pushing and needing it to be me because I can do it. So sometimes I still think that that looks like a good idea until I notice how that feels. And it doesn't feel very nice. So what I am discovering every day is how simple this can be when we do what you just said is there's just this step to take right now. And that's actually how it works, is that the wisdom in us, the guidance in us, gives us what we need for right now. And that's what's ours to do. Sometimes it looks too simple for the little mind. It's too obvious, really. It's just this thing. And until we don't get the next thing, until we do that thing, because it informs the whole journey. It's exactly what you said. And while not everyone may have an experience of, I just need to clear everything out and end this out before I know the next thing, sometimes that's just true. Like, you need to empty and create space to have that next thing, the now thing, show up. Because we're so busy doing what we've been doing that there isn't space for it. And you knew that that was what was necessary. And if someone is listening to this right now, and maybe even that someone is me, I would know if that's what I need or not. I'm the only one who would know. It helps me and others to know that we don't have to have it figured out.
Yeah. So beautiful the way you put that. And the thing is almost what occurred to me when you were talking is that it's almost like we get a chance to constantly simplify. That we are hardwired, some of us anyway, me definitely hardwired towards complexity and towards more and towards adding. And still, me still, like only last week, I thought I'm really overwhelmed. I just can't keep on top of what I'm doing. And I knew I'd taken on too much, which I have a tendency towards. But now, instead of being overwhelmed and keeping going or having some sort of thinking around, well, I can't not do that and I can't not, I just let the balls drop. I just stop. And there's maybe, one ball in my life that I have to keep going, which is looking after my people on the program. But all the other balls can drop for a minute. And I let the balls drop and just stop and then see, oh, I've just got too many big projects on the go right now. That's not sensible. It doesn't work for me right now. There are seasons where I can just go vroom, vroom, vroom and get loads done. And then there's other seasons where that's too much. And the blessing of understanding how it comes from me, that I am the source, means that I don't stay for too long attached to what I think I should be doing. Because I am the source and you are the source and we are all the source. So therefore, what comes through me is the should, not all the things I made up about the should. So the book that was taking up all my time, that can pause. All the other projects, that can pause. And maybe it won't come back. Maybe I'll say I'm not going to be doing that. But it's such a blessing to realize that we can stop and we can find our pace.
Yeah.
and we can, and we're in charge, basically.
So I want to ask you what you've seen about what you referred earlier to doing God's work, like that people thought of the work you were doing in the prisons as God's work, and what you see about that now, like what it means to you to be doing what you're called to do now.
I think we have a tendency to categorize what is good work and what is, just work. And in the same way, they're artistic and we're not, they're creative and we're not. We categorize things. And I've come to see, thank goodness, through the work that I'm doing, that when you are living your best life, as in yourself, your own passion, your own, whatever comes through you as the source, you are doing God's work. So it doesn't have to look like saving hundreds of people in prison or working with homeless people or these things that we put onto like some sort of higher category of good work. My husband is a great example of doing God's work. He is retired and he looks after the cats and me. He cooks amazing. He's an amazing cook. He puts love into his cooking. He loves his family. He's very warm and welcoming. He loves people. He looks after the garden. He looks after me. And most importantly, he looks after the cat.
Okay.
And I believe that he is doing what he's meant to be doing right now, because he's just completely himself in his own pace, in his own time. And he has this passionate, big spiritual heart that anyone who comes and stays with me for a retreat, like he'll cook for us. And it was funny when I started doing this a couple of years ago, someone told me they won't want to all come and eat with you. Well, I think they like the eating the best part. Not the walk and talk with Mum and Jay. It's the food that they get from Papa. And, the homeliness and the country kitchen and all of that. That work that he does that is not recognized by anyone but me, maybe, and his family, that is not, there's no accolade. He's not paid to do that work, but he's doing the work that he's meant to be doing right now. And if we could, I like to see that as a lesson. So if we could all make the best cup of tea, that's God's work, right? If we could all relax and take a moment to breathe in, like we're having an amazing weather-wise this time of year, which is unusual. Take in that, breathe in the air. If we live every day from there, whatever we do with that will be God's work. So I bring that energy to the people that I work with, and he brings that energy to the cat, and anybody who comes to visit. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I kind of had a sense that your answer would be along those lines, but I really wanted to hear it from you. Because I think especially on your journey and what you had to let go of about the heaviness that might have come with this idea of I'm doing God's work, to allow that to drop and then see that it's so much simpler. It's just you being you, doing what you're called to do, enjoying your life, and however that shows up. And this is how it looks for your husband. And this is how it looks for you right now. And this is how it looks for me. And I have seen very recently, actually, how much I was still, I had still been operating under somebody's idea of shoulds. I don't know, but it wasn't mine. And not really fully acknowledging the things that I want to do, because a long time ago I put them into a category of that's not really valuable, that
Mm,
doesn't make money, that's
mm,
not really work. And it's simply not true. And so, oh my goodness, what happens now if I see that, right? The kinds of things I'm talking about are, I've been a writer I've been writing for a very long time, since I was very young. And I always said I would write a memoir someday, and I did. And I've written two, I have two drafts of other novels. None of them have been published, right? Like these things. And so I write all the time. I write every day, but I've never really let that have the space and the place in my life where I really feel drawn to. And I go, no,
mm.
I really don't want that. But it actually wasn't true. And I'm kind of seeing that. It was like, this is somebody else's idea of what an entrepreneur's life is supposed to look like, not mine. And even the idea of being an entrepreneur, which I've become quite attached to, because throughout most of my adult life, that's an identity that I had, doesn't feel so, it doesn't feel so like me anymore. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. I can do that. Do I want to still do that? What do I want it to look like now? It's a question and an opening. It doesn't feel like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing and exactly where I'm going and exactly who I am, because I realized how much I wasn't living in that simple place, the simple space of just being me. And I I meet a lot of people who, it's not surprising to me, they come to me with an idea of what they'd like to do. And there's a lot on it. There's a lot of doing God's work. It's my calling, it's my purpose. There's a kind of heaviness about it. And when I see that, it doesn't mean that they don't want to be up to what they want to be up to. I'm just kind of curious, like, what would they really do if they were exactly perfect as they were? If nobody needed help? If the world didn't need to be changed? What would they want to be up to for real? And so what would you say to someone who, I'm guessing you probably see this too with transformative coaches, bringing this idea of, I need to get this information to people. People need to have this understanding. Like, everybody needs it yesterday. And in prison work too, I'm sure something similar. What would you tell someone about that?
Yeah, I do hear that as well. So I'm reminded of something that Jan Chipman once said to me, which was, you've already fulfilled your purpose. You don't have to do anything else. Like, you've fulfilled your purpose. And I really struggled with it. And I thought, well, how did she know? Which bit was my purpose? And how did she know that? And so on. But I came to see that the fulfilling of our purpose could have been the tissue that you handed to someone who was crying on the street, or the kind words that you said to a barista that actually made his day. Such simple things. The thing that you planted in the garden that then somebody took joy out of. I've come to see that living is fulfilling your purpose, and living from just how you are right now. You don't have to be calm and zen or perfect or got it all together or be doing something that is categorized as God's work. You just have to be living in your messiness. That's already fulfilling your purpose. Everything else is icing on the cake. everything else we get to play with, because then it's all off, right? So people call me an entrepreneur. I don't know about that, but when I started this new venture, I didn't know if it's going to work. I didn't know if I'm going to have one season and then that's going to be that. But I went all in because I had the energetic feeling of, give it a go. Let's give this a go. And I believe in focus, even though I struggle with focus. I believe in really focusing on the thing that you're playing with, and helping that along its way. But I see that everything I've done before, and like with Beyond Recovery, everything I did before brought me to that place. Everything I've done before brought me to this place, and all those skills and expertise and joy comes into it. And so I could say, well, now I'm fulfilling a new purpose. But I just think that I don't want that weight on it. What I help people with when they come, and I particularly like working with people who want to work in underserved communities, for instance, and they come with this heaviness of desire and purpose. And actually, I want to take that off the table and say, well, thinking about that may have been your purpose, because you've had that thought, and thoughts become form, they become reality. So that thought's out there now. So what would you do if you just was going to enjoy the rest of your life? And then conversely, that enjoyment means we feel our purpose more, because we're really living our life in joy and beauty and wonder. And then everything else is just a game, including money.
Yeah. What are you saying about money that you'd like to share, and that money being part of the game here?
A couple of things that come to mind. One is that I was always confused by the idea of you always get what you need. So I was confused by that, because I could see it to be true. I could see that when you really need whatever you need, the resources turn up. And I could also see it to not be true in some areas, particularly the people I was working with. And then I had this dichotomy going on of, yeah, but what about if I want more? Like, I don't just want what I need. I want what I want as well. So I always had this relationship with that part of money that I didn't quite understand. And then the other thing was, I didn't think that I deserved to be paid high ticket, for instance. And that I thought that everything should be of service. And then of service meant that I didn't have to take care of myself. No matter how many times people told me about the AMS principle, like, that just didn't land. I was just like, yeah, but all of that has come to a place now. And especially because now I work with other people who have got that, you work with the people who are just one step behind you, don't you? Often. I don't see money as energy. I see money as a spiritual source, in the same way as the books on my shelf are a spiritual source, as I am a spiritual source. It's just form. Money is form, and it's what we use right now. And there is actually way more money, and way more money that could go around than we know. There is a controlling factor, and there are people who know that and people who don't. And many people don't. But once you know there is abundance of money, it's almost like, what happened for me was I suddenly went, oh, so it's okay for me to have some of it. I don't have to think, but what about those people? They haven't got any of it. I have to stay on my side of the street. And when my abundance grows, actually, some of those other things will get sorted out because it's all consciousness. It's all part of this tapestry. And the money veil has us thinking that there's enough there, but not enough there. And so, I'm still in the journey on this. But an example that comes to mind is when I worked for the prisons, there's a system where people like me, the third sector organizations, can access the pots of money that the government put into the system. And just like any big social system, it was huge and complicated. And the prisons didn't know how to run it. And the people like me didn't know how to access it. And one year, I think it might have been just after COVID, maybe 21, we got on a call with someone from the Ministry of Justice here who was trying to help us access this money. And he said there are millions of pounds every year that no one claims. Now, in the prison world, we would say there's no money, it's all down to brass tacks. He said there were millions unclaimed. So the money is always there. It's just, and I used to say the money's there, we just have to figure out how to access it. My shift is that when I stop worrying about the money, that actually we see the opportunity because that layer falls away and you can't get there through trying to think it. It just falls away, and then you see opportunity and you see ways of accessing the funds that you need to access.
I think that was lovely. What's been occurring to me, and it's not that this is a new idea that's never been in my world, but it's actually really occurring to me now, is that if I need money or anything, not just money, anything at all, if I want anything at all, that really the best place, perhaps even the only place to go for it, that really makes sense, is into the quiet and what I know to do and what occurs to me. There's a window here and I can see trees and there's sky and there are all kinds of living things out there. And they don't have the thinking minds that humans do. And somehow they know what to do to get their needs met. There's something in them that guides trees to grow towards the sun and roots to go downward, that has mosquitoes drawn to people like me for nourishment, and birds, thank God, drawn to mosquitoes as their source of nourishment, and bats, right? So, but like nobody tells them that, and they don't have to figure that out. It comes from being themselves, comes from what happens naturally from living, as you were describing, just living and enjoying and being this human experience that we are, and letting that be enough, because we can use our minds. That's beautiful too. But using them the way I was using them, and oh my goodness, like years ago, Mama J, what I would do to get myself to make money, what I knew to do was scare myself so bad. And when I was doing the online marketing business, it was every month we would do an event. It was like a launch. So it was like clockwork. First of the month, I'd be like, oh shit, I need to make money. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. For 3 days, I would just scare myself pretty much nonstop for 3 days until finally I would go, what can I do? And then I would do something and stuff would happen. But I was not getting the highest quality ideas because from that panic and that kind of pressure that I was creating, I was going to a lot of what I'd done before. And so it was almost like the well was going dry. It wasn't alive. Like you said, you found in the work that you were doing, like something, like it was just losing it for you. And that's what happens when we're not going fresh to this source of everything. And we're drawing from, when I was drawing from my own mind and what I thought my little mind said I should do and could do and had to do and what was possible and what wasn't, instead of what was actually happening in the moment, which is so surprising often, but it's rich, and it just, even if it's surprising, there's something about it that feels right because we know.
I noticed one day I was designing a new program, and there was someone helping me. It was in early days of Beyond Recovery, and there was a director helping me with that. And in the design of the program, I was full of energy and excited and, had all these creative ideas. And then he wanted to price it and to cost it out. And for the first time in the whole of my life, and this is 10 years ago, so that's a long life, I noticed my state of mind dropped, basically. I noticed it. So as soon as he started doing figures, I noticed how I literally slumped into this, oh, this is hard type of place. And because I noticed it, I had the insight. That's why I find money hard. Because whenever I think about money, I think about it from this really narrow place of fear and all sorts of thoughts I had. And then over time, that improved because I'd noticed it. So it started to drop away. But I've continued to have an ongoing relationship. And one thing that I love to do now is when I do get those times when I think, oh my gosh, I need to make money, which does happen. Hell, what am I going to do? I have a slump. I know that my best ideas are not going to come from that place. And so I have a little dance party, get my whiteboard out, put my dance music on, get my colours out, and then I write down everything that comes to mind that I could do to make money right now today. So even the naughtiest things, even the most bizarre things, if it's something that I could do, I put it on there. And in 10 minutes, I have like a whiteboard full of ideas. It's not then that I choose one of those ideas. All that exercise does for me is lifts me into the realm of possibility and makes me see, like, if you really need to make money right now, you can do it. This is not a problem. Here are 100. And what's bizarre is usually I don't even do those things, very simple and straightforward. But it just helps me to see it's within me. I can sell stuff. I can, like I said, I don't want to go through the list because some of it's naughty, but all sorts of things come to mind.
Well, I was drawn to the naughty, Mama J. I was like, oh, what naughty things are on your list? You do not have to tell me. I can use my imagination because I'm pretty good at that. I see this every day. I see it in myself. I see it in other people, the people I talk to, that as soon as they start talking about their problems and they feel heavy and it's hard and it's overwhelming. This is not me making fun, by the way. It's just how it feels. We feel it. We feel what we're thinking. We feel what we put our attention on. So they're putting their attention on the problems and they feel the heaviness. And then the minute we start talking about what they love, what would be fun, we start to play, things get lighter and lighter and lighter until they are feeling really nice, until they go and put their attention back on their problems. And the thing that I didn't know, and even until recently didn't know the way I know it now, is that it doesn't help me to put my attention on my problems. Be aware of them, like the fact of, okay, there's this bill coming in. Okay, there's this thing that I want to do, and this is what, like, the fact of that is helpful. But the whole story I have about that being a problem and why nobody's going to do this and how I can't and what am I going to do and it's so overwhelming and there's too much is not at all helpful. And what you described as your beautiful, brilliant way of just shifting into a different state of mind when you notice you're low by doing what you know works for you, a dance party with a whiteboard, you know? Sometimes I have a wondering party with people, and it's a mind expanding just to start wondering about things or playing, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? And suddenly we're just, whoa, yeah, possibilities are back. They've always been there, but we're putting our attention on the world of possibilities. And that's what we're looking for, not the answer from that, but that feeling, right? That's
Yep.
that's what I heard. And then you know something there that you didn't know before from the heaviness.
Ah, absolutely.
So I have a lot of people in my community who are coaches. Certainly, they all, pretty much all of them who have a business, have a mission or something that they'd like to bring into the world, whether it's their art or their healing or their coaching, their practice of some type. And they have varying challenges, some of the ones we've talked about here. What would you love for those people to know that would make the biggest difference for them?
Oh. So some things are coming to mind, but I want to be more practical. I mean, what to give a practical slant to it, because I can say you are enough, you are already there. And I really mean that. Like we can do anything. We can do anything we want to do. But I also appreciate that if you haven't seen that, if you haven't felt that for yourself, it can feel like, oh, you're holding back the secret. Like you've said that, but you know something that I don't know. So I wanted to be more practical, and I guess so. The one thing that I would say is that be okay with charging people a sustainable amount for what you love to do, what you know you can bring to the world. And you don't even have to be comfortable with it. You don't even have to love it, but be okay with, I can charge people. I can basically make a living, make an earning out of the thing that I know can help X, whoever it is, because that's the biggest thing that gets in people's way. You know, they have the healing, they have the wonderful stuff that they bring, but they don't make it sustainable because they don't charge enough money. And they think that people won't pay that money, but that's not true either. Like, that's all made up. And I did a little course where the guy was saying how to develop a 10K offer. And I thought, I cannot imagine right now having a 10K offer. Like that amount seemed huge to me. And it was just a 7-day, sort of fast program. And the biggest takeaway I had was, one, it's actually not that difficult to create something worth 10K when you teach from your embodied knowledge, which most of us transformative coaches are doing. It's not that difficult. And B, someone else in your industry is doing that already. And when he said that, I thought, that's true. And I could reel off at least 5 people. But in actual fact, that's just evidence that it's been done before. And if so, then why can't I do that? So if you start there, work your way back and just be okay. And the tool that I give to people is just have one offer and one price. Serve people and then make your offer. And then that's it. Like you don't have to discount. You don't have to think about, can they afford it? if it serves them and they want it, they'll come.
That's lovely. I really appreciate that you spoke from your heart, and also that was practical. And I think that is really important for us as change makers and spiritual entrepreneurs. We have our feet on the ground. We know we're taken care of because we're taking care of ourselves, and we're doing what we know to do to allow that to happen. And noticing when we don't, like when we don't charge or when we don't charge enough. And that's a part of it. It's not lesser. I really appreciate that you brought that. So thank you, Mama J. And if people would like to find out more about what you're up to, where is the best place they can go to do that?
So it's jbhollows.kit.com/impact to income. And that's a free crash course, email crash course that they can take. And then they'll get my email newsletter and they'll know what I'm up to.
Cool. And I will post that link in the description below this video and the podcast so people can find that there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama J. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories on marketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/Wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.